So a little bit about me. My name is Stacy Adams. I am the head of marketing at Vyond. I've been with Vyond almost 4 years now. My background is in technology marketing, so business to business and business to consumer, mostly in mobile and video, which is why I'm here today. And I spent a lot of time doing research on visual thinking, visual presentation. So I have a little bit of that kind of rolled into this reskilling presentation. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've lived in the four corners of the United States: Pittsburgh, Seattle, San Diego, Atlanta, and a couple of years in Melbourne, Australia. So I've worked for a couple of British companies. I've spent a lot of time here in London, so it's always exciting for me to come back. So what we're going to cover today, hopefully within the half an hour time slot that I have, is our changing workplace, the shift in skills that we're seeing in what's required of a workforce today. So why reskilling is actually necessary, why it's also a really good idea. And then moving into the video piece of it, why video makes sense when you're developing training programs, reskilling programs for training. And then how video applies to teaching social, technical, and cognitive skills. So the changing workplace. So in this quote, in 2019, nearly half of business and IT executives reported that more than 60% of their workforce would move into new roles in the next 3 years. So I think we're all seeing this rapid shift in the way businesses do business, right? There's automation, technology, just different ways people work. So it's really impactful in how we train people. So as organizations adopt new technologies, they're finding that virtually every job has to change. So, and the jobs of the future are more digital, more multidisciplinary, and more data and information driven. So to take full advantage of technology, organizations must redesign jobs to focus on finding the human dimension at work. I know I'm not the only person whose news feeds are filled with bringing humanity back to the workplace. And personally, I think it's exceptional. I love the fact that we're looking at people as whole people rather than as assets that we need to do business. So, you know, this change, whereas it can be a little bit scary, it's also quite good, I think, for people. So Deloitte did this human capital trends research, and that's where this information comes from. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that to take full advantage of technology, they need to create these new roles that Deloitte is calling super jobs, right? And they're jobs that combine parts of more traditional work with the new technologies that are available to realize productivity and efficiency gains in the workplace. So what's driving this, right? We talked a little bit about tech automation. So according to the World Economic Forum, these are the drivers that are going to affect business growth through the year 2022. This is in their work study. So when you look at the technology trends, right, nothing here is surprising. Internet, AI, which we just heard about, big data analytics, cloud technology. As a marketer, right, I grew up in an environment where I had Excel. I did slide transparencies for presentations for my company. I kept track of lead source data in a FileMaker Pro spreadsheet that I made myself. I mean, technology and marketing has changed so rapidly that I've even found working in a startup environment that it's so hard to keep up. And then combine that with the socioeconomic factors that are happening today that help kind of push that driver in technologies. So you've got especially expansion of education in the middle classes in developing economies, and this move we have towards a greener economy. So you've got technology on one side, socioeconomic on the other, and they're all coming together to really rapidly change our workforce. And then, you know, speaking just to automation, one of the things that you look at when you do some of this research is that this automation, and I think this has been happening for a lot longer than just now, right? People are always afraid that a skill that they learn or what they do can be easily replaced by some piece of technology. So fear for a job, thinking that something's going to automate my process and I'm not going to be necessary anymore. And so this has really strong emotional connotations for people who have these skill sets that they fear are going to be replaced. So a couple of slides, we're going to look at the shift in required skills. So this is a McKinsey study just highlighting really what I've just covered from a numbers perspective. So 2016, hours worked versus 2030, and looking at the difference here between technological skills, right, at 73 here and 113 here, social and emotional skills, quite an increase there, and then cognitive skills. And so I've broken it down a little bit in a little easier format, but the idea that these are the three, according to McKinsey, these are the three focused areas where we need to be skilling our employees, we need to be training our employees. So social and emotional intelligence, technological skills, and higher cognitive skills. So how do we do that, right? To me, right, you've got a couple of options. You can outsource, you can hire new people, or you can retrain the people that you have. So this presentation is about reskilling as the way to go, and I'm going to show you why that is the case. So according to a 2018 report from Training Magazine, the average cost of training existing team members is $986 per employee, while the Center of American Progress found replacing employees on average cost 21% of their salary. So if I'm paying someone $55,000 a year, that means it's going to cost me $11,500 to replace them versus a little less than $1,000 to train them. And so it makes a financial case for using your existing workforce. The other element is time, right? Hiring someone new takes time. 42 hours or 42 days on average. This is from HireVue, the source. And I've lived that. A lot of you, I'm sure, have lived that just having a position open, you're not just looking at that 42 days, you're also looking at the onboarding time it takes to get someone in and ramped up and productive. So you're talking about months where you can be spending those months reskilling groups of employees at higher efficiency. Not to mention, all the people who are involved in hiring decisions. So all the time that people spend on reviewing resumes, looking at doing interviews, phone screens, and all of that. So let's talk about some examples. AT&T actually has one of the largest workforces in the world, and their research showed that only half of their 250,000 employees had the necessary science, technology, engineering, and math skills required for what was coming. As well, more than 100,000 workers were in jobs having to do with hardware functions that probably wouldn't exist in the next decade. So when you think about that rapid obsolescence of mobile phone hardware or any type of hardware, the idea that you've got such an enormous number of people who don't have the skills necessary to succeed in their job 5 years from now, reskilling makes so much sense. And then there's an emotional benefit. Right? We talked a little bit at the beginning about the fear that comes along with thinking that your job is going to go away or you won't have a job. Reskilling an employee, training an employee shows that you care for them, that you have faith in them, and you see them as more than an asset or more than a financial investment. The other part is that learning a new skill makes you feel empowered. I love learning new things. It makes me feel good about myself. It gives me little successes, right? And then giving people that success makes them feel more secure in that job. And so that fear goes away because now they trust you as an employer to take care of them, to help them grow and help them maintain their employment. So let's move into video, right? So, one of the things that that I've done a lot of work with is how visual learning and video really helps move the needle. So why does this apply, or how does this apply in reskilling your workforce? So this is one of my favorite slides because this is what my life looks like. Every device, I think I had a Fitbit, but now I've got the watch, but definitely the laptop, the Echoes, the Google Homes, between Alexa and Siri, I don't know who I'm talking to most of the time, my iPads, iPhones. We are a distracted workforce, right? And technology is good because I'm able to get a text message from my son's school in the middle of the day or a phone call, and I'm able to kind of balance that work life a little better because of this. But I'm also torn in lots of different directions. And so when it's time for me to learn at work, you have to put yourself in a quiet room, take the devices off, things like that. That's not going to happen. So how do you break through that distraction, right? This is one of my favorite quotes from ATD in the US. Employees devote 1% of their time to learning, check their phones 150 times a day, and switch tabs every minute. And this always reminds me of that meme where it says, my mind is like a web browser. There are 30 tabs open and there's music coming from somewhere. And that's 100% it. But that's your learners, that's exactly their lives also. They also want a quick fix, right? They want learning to be fast. It's just another thing I have to do. It's a box I have to check, right? So they put up defenses. They also have experience with training, whether it's with you or with someone else, that wasn't quite engaging. I think about those canned videos we used to have to watch, and you think, oh, these cringeworthy scenarios that people are going through, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the time. I've got work to do. I've got my home life to think about. So already I'm defensive. And the thing is, when your mindset's not open and ready to learn, nothing's going to penetrate, right? You're not going to retain any of that information. But what if people actually look forward to learning, right? What if the training was so engaging that people thought, wow, I can't wait to see what happens next, or I can't wait to see the new video that my training team has put together for me. So thinking about video, right? I have this thing, and I use persuasive media to mean not just persuading someone to do something, but also persuading someone to learn, right? And so it starts with text, right? On the left-hand side, it's your most basic form of communication. So a lot of us, when we were developing our first training or working in instructional design, it starts with writing, pen on paper. Then we move to pictures. Adding pictures to text makes it come alive a little bit more. And then presentations or short animations. And then video, right? Combining all of those things together, with or without text, is to me then the next greatest thing to in-person delivery. So another study that Training Magazine did in the US was they surveyed learners on how they like to learn. And not surprisingly, most learners said in-person, classroom style or in-person training. So think about it, right? We're all here to do that same type of thing. And engaging with me is a lot more interesting than sitting and watching a video of me, which I hope you don't ever do, after the fact or in another environment. But in this distributed workforce world we live in our crowded digital lives, video is the next best thing to being there. So why does video work, right? According to Forrester, an employee is 75% more likely to watch a video instead of reading text. So you can engage more of your team with video than you can with text training. Video reduces cognitive load. It's easier on your brain. So again, in the visual thinking world, looking at a picture solves your problem right away, right? I'm looking at a photograph of a tree. I don't need to think about anything else. My brain registers all types of things about that tree immediately. If I read about a tree, I still have to imagine what that tree looks like. I still have to think about what context that tree is in, right? So that picture, or that movement, that video, it automatically puts me further ahead cognitively than text. So short videos, like microlearning videos, really easy to process, easy to retain information. And then your learners have control with video. So they can go forward, they can go backward. If they miss something, it's really easy to scrub back and forth rather than thinking, oh my God, I have to go back and read that text over and over again. And then the other part of it is just watching someone, like in a step-by-step process, thinking about watching someone do something is a lot more easy to mimic than reading about someone doing something. So let's go back to those 3 factors that McKinsey talked about as being critical to this reskilling, right? And how do we apply video in training to those 3 factors? So the first one was social and emotional intelligence. So McKinsey estimates 24% more time will be spent on skills tied to social and emotional intelligence as a result of automation, which is really interesting. Because again, where we feel that technology in some ways connects us, in a lot of ways it divides us. It makes it really easy to avoid talking to someone if you can send them a Slack message or you can send them an email. And so we're losing touch with what connects us as human beings face to face. And so teaching this or continually training on this is really critical to this new workforce. So I'm going to show you a video, hopefully the sound works, that we put together around a social EQ concept called attribution bias.
Imagine you have an urgent task to complete, and you need to do it with your partner, Betty. But the problem is, she's late, really late. Your brain is quick to connect the dots. She doesn't care. She really lacks discipline. Well, your brain just took a common shortcut called the fundamental attribution error. When witnessing another person's behavior leading to a negative outcome, we tend to attribute that behavior to their intrinsic nature while underestimating situational factors. Because of the fundamental attribution error, you now have a negative perception of Betty, and it further affects your judgment of Betty's actions. Every mistake she makes now amplifies that negative perception. Because of that, you decide to handle your next project all by yourself, and end up working very late to complete it. The next morning, your alarm clock doesn't ring for some reason. Plus, there were some delays commuting. The result is, you're late to work. Apologizing to your boss, you feel guilty. But there was nothing you could have done. It's just one of those days where everything goes wrong. You've just followed another brain shortcut called the self-serving bias. When we analyze our own behavior leading to a negative outcome, we attribute it to situational factors instead of our own intrinsic nature in order to see ourselves more positively. Let's wrap up. The fundamental attribution error is when we attribute someone else's behavior to their intrinsic nature because we lack information about situational factors. On the other hand, we tend to attribute our own behavior to external factors in order to protect our self-esteem. The important takeaway is that they are both subjective attributions. Looking at both intrinsic and external factors is key to learn and grow.
So one thing to point out here is that this is a scenario-based video, and video in particular works incredibly well for scenarios. So the idea that, someone says the words attribution bias and people's eyes roll up in their heads, right? But this is a really interesting way to put that across and to think, boy, I've done that. I think like that, and of course we're self-serving. So just the idea of that's a quick and easy way to push out a concept that might be a little bit more difficult for people to grasp. Video works incredibly well in that area. So let's talk about technical skills then, right? Often complex, easy to get bogged down in reading, And we process information more intuitively, like I said, with video. So the idea of watching someone do something rather than reading about them doing something, video makes enormous sense. So this is a consumer video example, but it's a really good one at showing how a how-to process works with video.
Hi guys, my name is Omar. I'm a technical specialist for Sonos Customer Care, and today I'm going to be helping out with setting up your new Sonos Beam. Before we get started, make sure to download the Sonos app to your phone, tablet, or computer. If you'd like to use Amazon Alexa with your Sonos Beam, make sure to download the Amazon Alexa app as well and have your Amazon login credentials ready. Before we get started, connect your phone or tablet to your home Wi-Fi network. With only 2 cables, the Sonos Beam is easy to set up. First, take your power cord, connect it to your Sonos Beam. Next, take your HDMI cord and connect it to the HDMI port on your Sonos Beam. Once everything is connected, you'll want to take the HDMI end of the cable and connect it to an HDMI ARC port on your TV. The ARC port should be labeled ARC. If you don't see an HDMI ARC port on your TV, check your TV's instruction manual for more information. If you don't have an HDMI ARC port, you can use the optical audio adapter to connect the HDMI cable to the optical out port on your TV. Open the Sonos app and follow the on-screen instructions to connect your Sonos Beam to your Wi-Fi network. If this is your first time setting up Sonos, you'll be asked to create a Sonos account, add your Wi-Fi credentials, and if you have surround speakers, the app will guide you to adding those to your Beam as well. If you have an iOS device, you'll be asked to go through the TruePlay tuning. This will allow the Beam to optimize the sound for the room that it's placed in. Now, if you're using an optical adapter to connect the Beam to your TV, you'll also be asked to set up your TV remote with the Sonos Beam. Once Beam is connected, add music services to your Sonos system. In the Sonos app, select the More tab and tap Add Music Services. Choose the music service you want to add and follow the steps to add your account. You can also add Amazon Alexa to your Beam so you can control the Beam with your voice. From the Sonos app, select the More tab and tap Voice Services. Select Amazon Alexa and log into your Amazon account. Finally, tap Verify Music Services on Alexa and link your accounts in the Alexa app. Make sure these services are also linked to your Sonos app. If you're using any one of these services, set it as your default music service in the Alexa app. That way, music will automatically play from that service without you having to specify in each voice command. Now you're all set up and ready to use your new Sonos Beam. If you want to learn more, check out our other videos or go to sonos.com/support.
So you guys can see that using screen captures within your video to show processes, software processes, really impactful. Again, people can go back and forth, and they actually see what they can visualize what they're looking at on their own device in order to get things set up. So lastly, on the cognitive skills side, why is video impactful in teaching cognitive skills? Well, as automation handles more and more tasks, people are freed up to focus on cognitive skills. So data analysis and synthesis, other creative tasks, and higher cognitive skills can be somewhat abstract. So again, thinking about complex processes or thought processes and how do you translate that in the best way, what's the best medium, and video is really exceptional for that. So I've got one more video. It does a little double duty because it explains visual thinking, which is some of what I've covered today. But it's a really nice way to look at something that is a little more esoteric from a video standpoint in a teaching environment.
What is visual thinking? Maps, logos, emoticons, instructions. We all process information in picture form thousands of times a day. And for many of us, when we're thinking hard or explaining something complicated, it feels natural to grab a pencil and express our own ideas in a visual way. Because when you need to give shape to an abstract concept, make the invisible visible and the intangible tangible, pictures have power. They're concise and clear. They make important things more memorable and complex things easier to communicate and comprehend. But visual thinking is about more than just pictures. It's about the journey we take when we make them. When you make pictures part of your thought process, amazing things happen. And you don't need to be an artist to do it. The act of putting your thoughts into a simple drawing gives them clarity and focus. Pictures force you to decide what matters. You have to edit and prioritize, leaving only what's relevant and useful. They open a door onto what's in your head and put it where others can see it, understand it, and help you refine it. And once it's there, you can make connections and combine ideas that would never have met on a page of text. You can pinpoint problems, hazards, and holes and plot your course through them. You can see your ideas from a different angle, get a new perspective, and push your thinking to places it would never have reached had you not reached for that pencil. Scriberia, the home of hard-working pictures.
So that's it. I've got my email address down there, stacy.adams@vyond.com. So if you'd like a copy of this deck, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to send it along or answer any other questions you might have on some of the research behind what I've presented today. But happy creating. Thank you very much.